This is going to be fun because the best deal in gaming has just got a bit worse. Game Pass is clear. Day one on Game Pass offer has actually got a lot more exclusive. It's now mostly not on Game Pass if you break it down by its tiers. So if that benefit was your biggest draw, this isn't good because you're now going to have to pay double what you used to before. And of course we all know why. The subscription business is number of users, churn rate, revenue per user. That's the kind of thing that dominates it. So if new users slow, the immediate move is to charge people more money. Doing so can, though, increase your churn rate, and that means that Phil Spencer is playing a fairly high-risk game. Hell, this may even violate stuff that they told regulators they wouldn't do in order to help get the whole Activision deal over the line, so it's a pretty damn crazy situation. What is crazy, though, is not checking out today's sponsor. Us, specifically at Bellular.Games, where we publish Loading Screen daily for our members. Now, Loading Screen is on our site. It also is in your inbox as a newsletter, and on Loading Screen, we cover games as they're coming out and loads of breaking stories, as well as things that we're not able to cover here on the main channel with videos. It's only be getting better and better as time goes on. I think it's a fantastic daily read to throw into your rotation, perhaps if you're taking the bus, reading over breakfast, that kind of thing. So if you want to give us a shot, you can consider a free trial over at Bellular.Games and get Loading Screen. It's the single best way that you can actually support what we do. So a big thank you to everyone who is chipping in over there right now. With that said, let's get into the news. Okay, so Xbox is rolling out a new system for Game Pass. Their main claim here is that it will mean more options for gamers, but of course in reality, it really just means you're going to be paying more money. So here's the rub. We start with Xbox Game Pass Core. This has got online console multiplayer, access to 25 catalog titles, and Xbox discounts. You've then got Standard. That's, again, online console multiplayer, the 25 catalog titles, discounts, and then the full Game Pass catalog. Brackets, the full Game Pass catalog is not the full catalog of games that are on Game Pass, because for all of those like day one release games, well, they will only go into the catalog basically after up to 12 months. And if you don't want to wait a year, there's of course Ultimate. That basically has got all of the same things, inclusive of the day one games, but also EA Play and a bunch of like Riot game things, and also cloud gaming access. Now, obviously the bit we care about the most here is money, and for Core, oh wow, the price is the same. Monthly. Yearly, it's actually risen to $75, up from $60. Standard, then, is what seems to be replacing Game Pass for console, which was their previous branding of that. So, Game Pass for console was $10.99. The new Game Pass Standard is $14.99, so that definitely is creeping up. And then Ultimate goes up from $16.99 to $19.99 a month. And that's with these new prices kicking in July for new users, and then from September for anybody who has got a recurring subscription, which basically just means if you wanted to like lock in a 1-year sub of the better deal, now's basically the time to do that. Now, if you're somehow like a aficionado of Game Pass, you may have noticed that the existing Xbox Game Pass for consoles is actually gone. Now, that's the tier that did not have online multiplayer, but did have day one release games. So if you're an existing subscriber for that, well, good news. Until you cancel, you basically get to retain your existing benefits, and that seemingly does include the day one releases. That's good, but obviously the second you end your membership, you will no longer have that benefit and basically that far better deal, assuming you don't want the multiplayer anyway. Now, from September, they're going to be removing the ability to stack subscriptions of that service, right? That's using prepaid cards. You can't stack beyond 13 months, but you can basically top up to 13 months indefinitely, which is a little bit strange. I don't know, like, are they hoping people will forget or something? Kind of weird. But anyway, stock up ahead of September if you're concerned about that. Otherwise, though, that product is actually dead for new users. It's just not a thing. Then we get to what most of us are, I think, which is PC. And basically, you get PC Game Pass, which is the PC Games catalog, day one releases, Xbox and Game Pass discounts, as well as EA Play and Riot Games stuff, for $11.99, up from $9.99. That basically means that compared to everybody else, we're making out like bandits. I mean, we've had an inflation bump in the price. That has absolutely happened, but we're not seeing a gutting of core benefits. That really does matter, because over on Xbox land, you gotta pay $20 a month if you want to get the day one releases. So analysis-wise, this is not the most complicated thing we've ever broken down on the channel. Their aim is obvious. They just want more people paying for Ultimate, right? That's entirely clearly the plan. And we know that because they've moved to the biggest benefit, which is day one for brand new games. Of course, by day one, I don't really mean day one, because as we all know, games actually launch in this magical, mystical time a few days before day one, and you got to pay more money via a more expensive edition for that. So yeah, imagine if it was Starfield again. You would have day one access to Starfield, but because of the early access period, on top of your Ultimate, which is now more expensive, you'd also have to buy the more expensive, like, premium edition upgrade. And I bring that up because I'm wondering if Game Pass Ultimate is more expensive, will they still try to pull that kind of shenanigans with early access? Now, the main thing here is pointed out by John here in Twitter. A year of Game Pass was 95 quid when Series X came out. Now, if you basically want the same thing with the day one stuff, you've got to pay 180 quid a year. It has basically just doubled, and as he says, I think I'd rather just buy the games. Yeah, absolutely. Let me know below, are you on a Game Pass tier, and at what stage would you actually decide to make that switch and just buy the games up front, even if you were paying slightly more to have access for all of those games, but of course in a non-subscription format? Let me know. Now, the other thing, some people are always raising a sort of conspiracy theory that the price is going up essentially to try and get people to buy more games, right? And I suppose you could see the logic there, but I would argue back by saying that Microsoft have actually, seemingly anyway, been kind of disappointed about the growth of Game Pass. So if they were to try and push people to buy games regularly, but I suppose like wielding the Game Pass discount that they might have, that would almost say to me that like they were being a victim of their own success with Game Pass, and it doesn't really look like that. I would certainly say that plenty of devs wouldn't be angry at the idea of just getting more people on Xbox consoles to actually buy games. And as an example here, James, who's a freelance critic, has been talking to devs, and he's had devs this week basically say that they find it hard to like actually justify a physical release for an Xbox game because the user base is just not conditioned to buy games, much less discs, as he puts it. I definitely think that is the case. I mean, if you look at, say, the Switch, that's a bunch of people who are a little bit more conditioned to actually buy physical games. I am absolutely not seeing that on the Xbox side of things. Even in terms of my personal playtime as somebody who has an Xbox Series X and uses Game Pass, yeah, I've not bought things on that platform, and to be honest, buying things on the platform almost feels a little bit worse to me. And I guess that's because I'm just kind of used to the free library. Maybe it's a little bit like how if you have, say, Amazon Prime Video, but you see something on there that you do actually just have to go and buy. There's maybe just a little bit of friction because you've basically been conditioned that you just have all of the things included in your sub. So I've got to wonder if there's an impact on player behavior there. Certainly a lot of devs have been worried about the value perception of games, that if everything just goes into these big silly bundle things, then basically we'll end up devaluing games. And to be honest, it's a theory that I'm kind of partial to. I mean, I think about other types of media, right? Back in the day, you had to buy a box set for something, okay? You had to buy a physical box set, buy your Blu-rays. Now that's no longer the case. And so the question is basically what's changed with that shift over to the subscription services? I'm not exactly sure, but I remember, say, the economics of something like Band of Brothers back in the day for HBO, because they could basically guarantee stupendous amounts of money from selling the physical copies. Nowadays, things are just changing a little bit. Now, obviously, games are interacted with in a very different way to, say, film or music, so it is going to be different for our industry, but we are basically reckoning with a highly similar thing. To refocus to the core of the story though, Xbox's problem is they've now actually got a full schedule of games to ship. Many more games from first-party studios that are being heavily marketed as day one on Game Pass, and it basically looks like it's going to be that for the next few years. I mean, that's a lot of $70 games that you would not be forking over $70 for. Xbox wants to release games each quarter, so, I mean, come on, just think about the obvious. Think about the lost potential revenue. That's obviously something they tried to mitigate with the premium edition upgrade stuff they've been pulling for like early access, say with Starfield, but I'm not sure, maybe that just wasn't as successful as it could have been. As it stands now, the standard is going to be that people have a core subscription, obviously for the online multiplayer. They would then want them to hop up to standard so that they can maybe access more of those games, and then on top of that, they would be buying games on day one, which basically would be a humongous win for Xbox, and other than that, what? Oh, they're going to be getting $20 a month for Game Pass Ultimate. So from their perspective, if the task is to get more money out of the existing audience, yeah, this is basically going to win on either front. Again, though, this is an audience problem. Specifically one of that audience not expanding fast enough. That's why they've been doing the likes of removing Xbox Live Gold, why they've been centralizing everything into a system that then lets them just get people up that pricing ladder to the better tiers. But still, on face value, this doesn't look like the sort of move that would grow the size of Game Pass, right? Increase that audience. However, there's Call of Duty. And that, I think, is the thing that could change all of this. Call of Duty is absolutely goddamn humongous, and for a lot of people, the whole 20 a month thing might actually make sense because of Call of Duty. And it's actually specifically interesting for Call of Duty because there's a new one every year, and they basically all feed into the same overarching live service. If they were to do the whole 12-month late thing, then, well, the time that you would get access to a Call of Duty outside of Game Pass Ultimate would basically be the time to go and buy the next Call of Duty game. So that would be a strong incentive for just COD people to live on that more expensive tier. Now, obviously, that tier is really expensive. It would be hinging on people assuming that in addition to COD, they would get plenty of extra value. So, baseline here, this is about increasing average revenue per user. Doing so can put off new users, but they probably think that now is the time to pull the trigger because they'll have more games and they've got Call of Duty. The plan basically is that the increased churn rate from a move like this could then be offset by more games. So that's the plan, more money from console, and they're obviously finding the console is not expanding. That makes a lot of sense. We are consistently just seeing headlines of Xboxes not selling. There is, though, PC. So let's talk about PC because PC is actually the thing that gets unscathed here. It remains a pretty good deal. So why would they have it be a disproportionately better deal? Why is some ultimate PC thing that's got day one games not like $17 or $20? I think the reason's pretty damn simple. They see loads of PC users. They probably see slow growth, so they think that this needs to be a strong product offering. Of course, I would counter by saying that, well, most of us play on Steam, so you're going to have to do some sort of Steam integration just like EA Play does, though if they do that, they'll obviously be losing money to Gabe, so who knows, maybe they don't. Now, there is another side to this. That side is cloud, and honestly, that's where I think the plan just kind of completely breaks down. So, they've been talking up recently things like Xbox on a Fire Stick, or on smart TVs. As an example, at home, we've got a Samsung smart TV, and it does indeed have an Xbox app on it, which is really annoying if you also have an Xbox plugged into your TV, because then you just have Xbox icons in places that do different things. Now, this makes absolutely no sense to me, because the only way to get cloud is the most expensive tier that is $20 a month. Now, let's compare $20 a month to the price of a Fire Stick. Like, a Fire Stick is a value-oriented product. The entire point is this is people who don't have a console, who don't have a PC, who are just playing these, I don't know, on an app on their TV, right? Who are only going to be doing cloud gaming. Well, their way to acquire this new audience base seems to be the most expensive, like, Game Pass thing. That is so bizarre to me. Like, why is there not a Game Pass cloud that has basically got the Game Pass library, no day one releases, and costs less money so they can actually hope to acquire users via this, like, I don't know, this vertical? It just seems weird to me. And speaking of weird, some regulators may think that this is all a little bit weird in terms of timing because, yes, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be coming out Game Pass on day one. Actually, Microsoft are obliged to do that, and the reason why is they actually said that this is one of the consumer benefits that they promised regulators as a part of the acquisition, that basically people would be able to get Call of Duty like for less money, and they were trying to say that this is one of the great consumer benefits, okay? So, they've said that. But the problem for Microsoft is they said they wouldn't increase the price. Yes, like they said the Call of Duty thing would not lead to a price increase, and now we're in a bit of a strange situation because there is a price increase. And that price increase is timed to be rather close to a new Call of Duty game. But can you prove a causal link, right, beyond all reasonable doubt? The answer there probably is no. They could simply justify that they've not been seeing the user growth that they wanted, and therefore they've had to increase the price. That's why there's a price increase, and it's not to do with Call of Duty. Or maybe it's to be in line with them having way more first-party games from things outside of Call of Duty. Like, they could basically argue around this. Obviously, I don't buy that Call of Duty's got nothing to do with this, right? Because users are effectively going to get the new Call of Duty for the price of their subscription rather than $70, and that is a potentially major drop in day one sales revenue. They obviously will want to level that out into some nice, tasty, recurring subscription revenue that is at a pretty damn high baseline. I suppose in a way, Game Pass was a massive gambit. It was essentially baking in a hell of a lot of growth that didn't appear. Now they're left with Game Pass, and I suppose their challenge basically is a sustainable version of Game Pass that doesn't cannibalize their revenue. And I guess this is what they think it looks like. You know, it's funny. Like over a year ago, and I mean even a little bit before that, those of us sort of on the dev or publisher side of the industry, we've known that stuff has been way more tight on a like sort of financial basis from Game Pass. I guess it's just interesting seeing a lot of that actually ripple out into the consumer side now. So anyway, that's basically it. That's the story. Will you pay more money? Will you upgrade? And if you're currently an Ultimate, are you going to stay there? Do let me know, and be sure not to miss the video that I published yesterday. Basically, I published it at like 11:30 at night, so pretty decent chance you didn't see it. Anyway, that will replace my face in the little box thingy, so give it a click. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.